Hey everybody, Zak Nordyke, passionate learner when it comes to business, investment, entrepreneurship. And today I want to talk to you a bit about the state of the cryptocurrency markets and just some lead indicators that I've been looking at using kind of Bitcoin as a barometer for the entire market. And I know I've been a big proponent of kind of getting yield on your digital assets. But recent events have made me think a ton about, how decentralized what we're investing in is. And, some of the exchanges and ways of storing our digital assets, like having a game plan in mind, just in case more centralized exchanges would come under attack for whatever reason that may be. I think it's been very eye-opening what's been going on in Canada with accounts being frozen and wallet addresses being blacklisted. I think that it's a tragedy what's going on in Russia and Ukraine, and there's a lot of tension and turmoil. And the thing that really gets me deeply concerned, going over and above just, where to store assets, is just in an uncertain environment. If you would have to do something like moving physical geographies, how easily could you access things that you've been storing value in? That's a big question that's been running through my mind. And also, how safe is what you're investing in, not in terms of market volatility, but like how safe is it if it were really challenged? Just looking at the situation in Canada, do you have an ability to basically transact in a way that is uncensorable? And are you prepared that if there's kind of financial censorship, that you have a strategy for positioning yourself where you could navigate around that? That's like something that obviously I was aware could happen, but I mean, it's become so apparent to me that you have to have a plan for it. Should it be fully enacted right this second? I don't know. That's really hard to say, and I'm not going to be claiming to be an expert on decentralized stable coins and all the different protocols, and or even decentralized exchanges. But I want to share a little bit about why my focus is going to go to learning a lot more about. Obviously, Bitcoin's huge because it's this decentralized ledger system that's fully autonomous, and not one person can kind of bring it down. It takes kind of a large crowd of people that are fully committed to the process to not only keep its value, but it's protected from maybe one person or a small group of people's lack of concern or care for a larger crowd. It's got the kind of brilliance of not having human error as a big driver of the system, where other kind of monetary things going on are so flawed. And what's really scary, I guess, is we're in a very politically charged environment. It seems like now in all of North America, and as people take sides on different political issues, it feels like an attack point on just citizens, we'll say, could be stopping their ability to financially transact or being able to transact with certain people. This is a big concern. Obviously, we knew this was one of the huge advantages of Bitcoin, but it just didn't seem like, okay, will we ever need to think about this in the United States or in any place in North America? It seemed really unlikely that it was going to be happening anytime soon, that would be such a huge part of Bitcoin's value. But it seems like now you really have to say, wow, that's a huge part of Bitcoin's value, and I better be prepared to protect myself just in case this huge wave of financial censorship comes about. And I think also starting to think about as conflicts start to arise, it might not just be censorship. It might be the necessity to access assets that are globally recognized as valuable, and quickly, and just from, an internet connected device. I'm very concerned that having US dollars as kind of like a primary savings, if it ever has been one, is just so flawed. And the fact that we may have to start to concern ourselves with having some type of value that we can kind of port around the world and it being recognized as something of value is become more and more pertinent. So I want to take a look very quickly at the fear and greed index. You can see that now we're at a 23, which is an extreme fear. It's not, yeah, it's extreme fear. There's no two ways about it. Yesterday was extreme fear, but here's the part that definitely has to be eye-opening. Last week, neutral. Okay, we were just kind of in again, looking at Bitcoin, a $40,000 plus, a $40,000 to $40,000 plus price if you're pricing in USD. And people were feeling, okay, what's going on with global conflict, with, just, there was a lot of uncertainty, but nothing had really happened. Now that we're seeing more things unfold in terms of conflict, people's fear has really started to escalate. And obviously the price has started to escalate. But the interesting thing is people's fear is driving them into US dollars, which is really kind of wild because Bitcoin's obviously a proven store of value. And people's first reaction when there's potential uncertainty in markets and in the world is to sell off assets, whether it be traditional stocks or whether it be cryptocurrency or digital assets, and convert into dollars. And I understand we pretty much use that, most of us at least, to transact day to day to buy essential goods. But I'm wondering if the logic really is there. If this starts to escalate further, will those dollars really have the value that we're hoping to if kind of chaos starts to tee up further? What does that mean? I'm not 100% sure, but if uncertainty and if kind of greater military conflict in, if Russia's ambitions grow larger and the conflict starts to affect, NATO countries and the US has to take action, is fleeing into dollars as kind of a protection strategy really that wise? I'm not sure. People are getting fearful, the price is dropping. So likely people are selling into dollars. The Sharpe ratio for Bitcoin, just as kind of using Bitcoin as a proxy or a barometer for the larger cryptocurrency market. Let's just kind of look, let's look at February, and see some of these Sharpes. Okay, it was positive at the last day of January, and it's been negative, for some days in February, but it's been going down, but it was positive even last week. And then we just kind of really slid down the rails here as, again, these Eastern European or Russia and the Ukraine conflict has escalated. Fear has gone through the roof. I mean, and again, we can't look at these conflicts just kind of as a market thing. Obviously, markets are markets and there's human lives involved in here. And it just seems tragic to say the very least. And the uncertainty for people in the Ukraine has to be enormous. So, it makes financial markets of any type look ridiculous. But it is kind of an interesting thing that people, at least I would think in the US, are selling off and going into US dollars as a protection strategy against uncertainty. I think when that is the thought, that's a pretty Hmm. It's probably not thinking through long term what would be in best interest. As things are becoming more uncertain, and fiat currency just by its nature is meant to lose value over time, rushing into things like a dollar that basically is because of uncertainty seems like the absolute wrong move. But the Sharp ratio showing that it's at a high risk level now, fear greed showing people's fears through the roof. The price action is obviously on the decline with, I've seen things with a lot of support at 30,000. But again, this seems like it's an opportune time to buy and to really accumulate into something of value versus going in and saying, hey, I rather have full certainty. And obviously everybody's financial conditions and need for immediate purchase of goods is different. But it seems strongly to me that we have to be thinking about how we can decentralize further, how we can mitigate financial censorship, how we can invest and have stores of value that would really protect us in a true event where there's global uncertainty, the need for mobilization and to kind of pick up your life in different geographies, whatever that might entail. Using US dollars seems like not a great strategy. I would assume if things get bleak, that is not going to be something that people easily have access to. And if history's really taught us anything about when currencies start to get hyper devalued, it's when kind of the leading currency of the world gets involved in a lot of conflicts that stretch them thin. Obviously, the US isn't taking any direct military action yet. I think that, obviously that could be on the cusp. But if there's a lot of conflict that breaks out and the debts that this country owes are already so enormous, getting stretched thin with as much money has been printed and put into the system, the rapid devaluation of the dollar, could certainly be on the table. I'm not saying that it is. It took the sterling quite a long time to kind of break apart in terms of its spending power, going from a global reserve currency to not. But this seems like we're on kind of the entry point for the US dollar not being the global reserve currency. It feels like there's something next. And if I have any vote in it, which I don't really as just a person, but I think starting to prepare for the next layer where it is probably more than likely going to be a decentralized digital set of currencies that are our method of transacting and storing value. It seems logical that you would invest in it now. It's superior technology. It makes superior logical sense. To wait until it's evident seems not responsible if you're a really savvy financial investor. So to get yourself established in these different protocols that allow us to store and exchange value seems huge. Obviously, Bitcoin, in my opinion, is a great way of storing value. But I did want to bring up this Mars protocol, which is a part of the Terra ecosystem. I just put a little bit of UST into Mars. It's going to be a decentralized way of borrowing and lending. It's a protocol very similar to Anchor. But I bring this up because it's such a interesting way, I think, to start thinking about not only the Bitcoin storing value, but what about the more everyday transactions? I think UST being, a decentralized stable coin is something we have to put more and more of our conscientiousness into. And obviously, I'm a big fan of Anchor. It would be hard not to with 20% yield. But I'm also going to certainly champion these types of decentralized lending protocols like Mars and try to, to the small extent I can as one person, advocate and champion these kind of decentralized ways of borrowing and lending. And I'm now more of a fan than ever especially with BlockFi's interest account being disabled. And I know that they're going to register for this new BlockFi yield product that's not out yet. But I'm becoming more of a proponent for decentralization of both stable coins. And in my opinion, I know some people will say, hey, I feel like transacting with Bitcoin in all ways makes total sense. I don't know if I personally agree with that. I definitely see it as a great store of value, but certainly having a tool like Terra UST as more of your everyday spending, something for more everyday spending is huge. So I would strongly recommend folks to check out Mars. I think it's a really interesting project. They're certainly doing things for the long haul to build up, their lending platform. I would certainly be strongly inclined to tell people to check that out, to really think through, building their UST, earning value on that, or I'm sorry, earning interest on that through an anchor now, but maybe supporting a project like Mars, and us kind of collectively that might be interested in the crypto space, supporting complete decentralization, both of stable coins and, obviously larger decentralized projects like a Bitcoin. I think supporting things that mitigate financial censorship and allow kind of global value where you can access it anywhere. And, I think whether there's conflict that creates it or just the mobility that people want, we have to have instruments that are outside of traditional fiat instruments to store value. That seems to be quickly falling apart. And I strongly encourage everybody listening, not as financial advice, certainly, but just to think through the absolute necessity for, censorship resistant financial systems, in the necessity to be decentralized both in stable coins as well as longer term stores of value. So I hope that this at least got you thinking about some of these things. I would strongly recommend, and I have this pulled up, checking out this Mars Bytes paper. I know I was listening to it on Spotify. I'm sure it can be listened to on other platforms as well, but check out Mars, again, a decentralized lending exchange, or I'm sorry, a decentralized lending technology that's built on the Terra ecosystem. Certainly do some research. I put out another video on Terra UST and earning interest on Anchor. I have to, again, plug UST and Terra for its decentralized nature. And it just being nothing, well, at least Terra, I know Luna is another story, but Terra is just basically what we would think of as a dollar, but it's an algorithmic stable coin that can be spent and transacted with just like we transact with dollars, but decentralized. So that's nice. And certainly start to think about the logic of leaving Bitcoin at a time where it's probably at its most needed to be invested into. Let's not leave decentralization at its most pivotal moment, where it can protect us from financial censorship, and it can strengthen us as a global, truly decentralized store of value, and actually a medium of exchange if we're looking at UST. So let's fight financial censorship. Let's support technologies that allow us to live in this burgeoning decentralized world. I hope that everybody at least investigates it, even if they're completely opposed to some of the things I say. I think it's important that people that are interested in this space get more interested and stop selling off and start fighting hard to make sure that these decentralized value exchange systems are here to last and here to stay. Thank you so much for your time and listening, and hopefully this has encouraged you to further research things like the Terra ecosystem or Bitcoin. It's a very important time for these types of technologies. Thank you so much.